Welcome to Comics in the Making. My name is Ryan Holgerson. I'm the creator of Slackmatic, and I'm joined, as always, by Levi Erickson, the creator of The Big. Levi, how you doing?
Pretty good today. We got a couple. We got a couple things
You paused.
we got to get off our mind, or we got to get off our chests. We're going to talk a little bit about the industry today, but we're also going to talk. We're going to talk about that from with respect to publishers, and also with respect to maybe more of the would you say the internet sphere, kind of for comic creators. Is that a fair way to, kind of the industry from the respect of publishers and the industry from the respect of people that create content online regarding comics?
Right. So let's start this off. Let's talk about the industry a little bit. So we've talked about aspects of this, I think, a little bit before, but recently I was watching a video by Matt. I think it's Matt. He does some great videos. Go check out his channel. He's got he does these real deep dives into certain subjects of comics. He just released a episode on Jeff Smith and Bone, and kind of the impact on the graphic novel industry because of Bone. And the big takeaway from that episode for me was Marvel has 4% of the graphic novel sales in the US. That's not including manga. If you throw manga in there, Marvel and DC combined have 5% of the graphic novel sales. So where are the graphic novel sales coming from if what we think of as the big two are only getting 4 to 5%? Well, that's coming from YA graphic novels with Scholastic. Clearly it's coming from manga as well when you throw that in there. But I thought it was huge that even taking manga out, Marvel only had 4%. And I wonder, because I know their number one selling graphic novel is the Spider Pig series, which is a kid's graphic novel series. I wonder how much that is anyway. Yeah. But a lot of that's in that sentence there. But I don't know if I wanted to talk about this more, because it's kind of like I told you so, because I feel like the past year both of us have been kind of beating this drum of comics is not dying. It's just not Marvel and DC. It's not the big two. And, seeing another video like that, kind of showing this is where they are. It's just, it's just, I told you so. I told you so. I just is how I feel.
I know how much it pains you to have to do the "I told you so." I know it's killing you to have to be the one. But here we are. Yeah, it's funny, like when you think about, there's no doubt that Marvel and DC are two of the largest American publishers. They both own tons and tons of IPs. Marvel owns like every IP that I kind of care about, or have traditionally cared about. From their own stable of characters to Star Wars, Alien, Predator, all the stuff. And somehow I feel like they've lost so much ground on creating the quality that they used to, you know?
Well, yeah, and I think for me, I think the disconnect is they have uh, focused their energy on the people that are our age and above.
That is
And
what that is.
right. And I get it. So there's two ways of thinking about it. I get it. People our age and above supposedly have more money. I'm waiting, but but supposedly we have more money than the teenagers and the 20 somethings, which I get.
Multiple income. But
So
yeah, but yeah.
yeah, so that but again, so they're focusing on this group. They're bringing back artists that we knew in the 90s and the 80s and the early 2000s and stuff like that to get this excitement in the 45-year-olds and the 50-year-olds to be like, oh, I want to see Ron Lim draw Silver Surfer again, and yeah, I do want to see that. That's not a strong business plan. I'm sorry, because we're old. Most of us are out of shape. So we're not long for this world in the grand scheme of things. Your business plan, if you're a company that size, should be to let's move into the future. Well, the future is always going to be the young people. So, and I also think there's a danger there where you see what's hitting, right? You see, okay, manga's big, YA is big. So now let's do a manga comic version of the Avengers or something like that. I don't even know if this exists. I don't know. Let's do that, or let's do this. But then they get these people our age to write that and to draw that, and they don't fucking get it. And what Marvel and DC should be doing, in my opinion, these big two should be getting that younger talent and saying, what would you do? Here you go. I want you to draw Batman. I want you to do your Batman story. Do whatever the hell you want to do. Let's see what happens. But they're not gonna do that. You're not gonna get that from those two companies. Because those two companies that they create everything by committee. It's all committee.
Yeah.
And when you create something by committee, it sucks. It sucks. Look at all the new Star Wars stuff. You come argue with me. Come fight with me.
I'm not going to look at the new Star Wars stuff.
Don't, because it sucks. I actually
need for Star Wars.
I've really been enjoying Skeleton Crew, which just came out. I think it's a lot of fun.
I've heard
it's fun. But a lot of the stuff, it's clear that it was created by committee. It's not good. Mm-hmm. So what happens is now these other creators come in and start doing something unique. And look, I get it. There's editors and everything at Scholastic and stuff like that. But going back to that video that I mentioned before, Scholastic's launch of their comic line was with Bone. Nobody was telling Jeff Smith what to do. Mm-hmm. He was his own publisher. He was the writer, the artist, everything. He did everything himself, and nobody was telling him what to do. And in fact, in the video, and I want you guys to go watch it because it's great. You probably already have, because he's way bigger than we are. Yeah. But in the video, when Jeff and his wife, who's his business partner, went to Scholastic to sign the papers, the president was there, and she had the stack of Bone books and a bunch of Post-it notes, and it was all these changes that they wanted him to do. They were just little words here and there, and he said, "If you want us to do that, we're going to walk away." And she said, okay. She took the pile of books, she put them down under the table, and she said, let's go sign the papers. Bone is sold over 20 million copies right now from a guy who got to do what he wanted to do. And here's the thing. I said he got to do it like he was privileged. No, anybody can do this. If you're a creative person, go. It's our motto at the end of it. Just do the damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
Go do what you're passionate about. Don't look at what everybody else is fucking doing. Don't go, stick figure comics are really big now with jokes and stuff on the internet. That's all I see. I'm going to throw more shade at stuff. I look at the internet, at most of the comics on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, and they all have this very minimalist style.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. There's a reason for that. You know, Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics. The more minimalist a character looks, the more you identify with it. I get it. But that doesn't mean you have to do that if you want to do something else. Because guess what? The next big thing is probably not going to be a carbon copy of what's big now. It's going to be something new. It's going to be something different. So go do something new and do something different. Which I don't think we're ever going to see from Marvel and DC.
No.
With the exception, sorry to interrupt you. I will throw props to Marvel. They brought on like Peach Momoko and stuff, and she does beautiful work. She does great comics.
Yeah.
I know that there are exceptions to these, but for the most part, they're not going to do that. And I guarantee you in their heads, when they bring on a Peach Momoko and they're having success with her, they're like, let's go find the next Peach Momoko. Like they don't get it.
I mean, these are legacy media companies at this point. They have been, for decades. And as that ball continues, that meatball continues to roll, off the table and across the carpet and out the door and down the stairs, just more gunk is sticking to that meatball. More crap is coming along. The bigger it gets, the more sticks to it, and the more garbage is stuck to that meatball. When companies get big, that is just the natural order. There's no avoiding it. When you used to look at a classic Marvel comic, how many bylines would there be in the credits? Maybe 6 people.
Yeah.
Writer, penciler, inker, colorist, maybe an associate editor, and editor in chief. Tops 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working in their bullpen, collaborating with other creatives, and it wasn't always a cakewalk. The editor wants to drive things in a certain direction, and the writer might want to do something. They're legendary stories of Jim Shooter and a given creative person, butting heads. Bob Harris, his name comes to mind. As far as editorial. But still, it was people who were collaborative, who came from the same background. All those names I named, they participated in the creative process of making comics before they were editing. Many of them. Now, when you open up a major, Marvel or DC comic, there's over a dozen names, and I don't even know what the people do. You see producer, associate producer. I mean, I don't know why that has to be there. I don't know, understand what they do. I knew what Tom DeFalco did when I was a kid. I knew what Jim Shooter did. But the more hands you have in the pot, like you say, they're making decisions based on committee. Not just that, but they've got what's being pushed from the top down is, like you say, oh, our numbers over here show us more because of the Peach Momoko thing. So do more of that. You know, I mean, it happened in the '90s when the hot shots of the late '80s and '90s started breaking the million issue single copy mark, and word from the top down was like, oh yeah, do another million. Spider-Man #1 sold 2 million. Let's do 3 million on something. Let's do 5 million on something. We need 8 million now. And you're just not going to get that. That's hardly a repeatable achievement. Certainly not on the level that business these days demands. With the insatiable hunger for continuous growth. So you're not going to get the good products. You're not going to get the experience that was had when people were really, passionate and took joy in the creation. Even at high levels, we're dedicated to the product. I'm not saying with naivete that they didn't care about profit back. Of course they cared about profit. That's something that I was going to get into about all these reprints and facsimile editions that keep coming out. But Marvel's been doing that since the golden silver age.
Yeah.
And so that's nothing particularly new. But it's just mismanagement of these legacy properties that we love. And I mean, maybe another component to why we're not getting as good at comics, arguably, maybe these characters are just played out.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying, discontinue Spider-Man or the Hulk or the Avengers, but I mean, as you pointed out, we're getting older. I haven't bought a mainstream comic book in over a year, fresh off the presses. I think the Madripoor Nights was the last thing that I purchased from Marvel, and that was exactly like you say.
Yeah. So I went to Heroes Aren't Hard to Find on Wednesday.
Wednesday Warrior.
Yeah. Well, so me and my wife, we were driving around Charlotte Wednesday doing Christmas shopping, and we ended up just buying stuff for ourselves because we're horrible people. We went to a shop for her, and I was like, hey, Heroes is just down the road. She was like, all right, let's go. So we went to Heroes. I had a stack of graphic novels. I mean, this big. I was walking around and they were like, you can put those down,
Please
and
down.
Yeah. And so if I know Levi has for the people out there, Heroes is kind of they've got a counter in the middle of their store, and on one side of their store is not all of their graphic novels, but most of their graphic novels are on the, when you're walking in, they're on the right side of the store. And in those graphic novels, that really it's most of their independent stuff. And then on the left is all of the new floppies and new stuff that's come in. Now, it's going to be no big surprise to anybody that I went straight to the right side and did not give a shit about the left side at all. I did go through the left side, and it was a real cursory glance. And what stopped me in my tracks was Richard Corbin's Den reprints. They had 3 and 4, and I was like, oh man, I wish they had 1. And my wife went and found 1 for me, which was on the other side. But anyway, what was my point here?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, look, to your point about, why aren't Marvel and DC making good comics? I don't care. I don't care. They don't need to make good comics for me. My point is, I went to the comic book store. I spent hundreds of dollars on good comics, and not one of them was Marvel and DC, and it did not affect me whatsoever, and I didn't care.
Yeah. We've said that before.
When we talk when we talk about, to your point about like the 90s and stuff like that, and selling millions of copies and everything, what was the strategy that they had to get a book going? The strategy was pick a comic that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason you picked a comic that sucked was they pretty much left you alone to do what you wanted to do.
Right.
And then what happened? So you get these guys in there, and they pick these comics that suck. They do what they want to do. The sales start going up. And then they get to go on to other books. And by that point, they get to do whatever they want to do. What's missing from the people that are allowing, I guess, books to be published, the ones that sign the checks, they can't comprehend that what's working is letting the creatives do what they want to do. That's it. It's not, let's go do a carbon copy of the Todd McFarlane and the Rob Liefeld and the Peach Momokos and all, that. No, it's them doing what they want to do. Is it always going to work? No, of course it's not always going to work, but you're going to get closer. You're going to get a better creative vision, which is why when I go into a comic store, I have no interest in that shit. I don't care, because I want to read a book that is that artist's creative vision. I want to see that creative vision. I don't want to see the committee's creative vision, because they have none. Yeah, they don't have any.
Yeah, the committee's fiduciary decisions on the printed page.
Yeah. Well, and
that is in large what you're seeing with the creatives involved in producing it, putting in as much as they possibly can before they're told no.
Well, and to that point, to go back to the YouTube video again, originally Jeff Smith wanted Bone to be a comic strip. He had originally the strip ran in the OSU Lantern in Columbus when he was in college there, and which I saw. Man, people that know, I lived 3 years in Columbus, the last 3 years of high school, and I saw a copy of Thorn, which was the comic strip. There was a collection that had been made, and it's super rare. You can find it now because Jeff Smith has reprinted it. He did a Kickstarter last year, but I saw it in a comic store. This was in 97, 98.
Yeah.
It was $1,000 at that time in 97, 98. It was that hard to find. Yeah. But anyway, so he originally wanted to do a strip. He had been sending in submissions. He got a meeting. I forget the guy's name, but he was head of, I think, King Features or something like that. Got a meeting with him, and they went into his office, and he's looking at Jeff's work, and he goes, maybe they talk in thought balloons. And he's like, why? Well, Garfield talks in thought balloons. That's it. That's what you get from a committee. These, I'm sorry, they're just uncreative people. It's not that they don't have skills, but it's not fucking storytelling. And thinking that, the reason Garfield is popular is because he talks in thought balloons. So now every comic strip we release should have thought balloons.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what you get. And we can extend this into the record industry too. That you'll have people in those decision-making positions that didn't come through there's no commonality with the creatives they're making decisions, regarding, but they think because they're there, they have something to do with creativity. When you're an MBA, that's how you got hired to be in that position, at publisher, at record label, whatever. But I'm sitting in this chair in this office and I'm talking to artists, so that must mean I have a knowledge of it too. You know, um, if you're going to tell someone, hey, we're going to do this because this is what's going to sell, is what's going to make money, that's why I'm here, then just present it that way. Don't try to like, half-ass backdoor your way, like what works creatively.
Yeah.
And I think there are plenty of examples where that's been the case.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that sums up our industry talk.
Yeah.
Marvel and DC are horrible. And everything else is,
And they don't have to be. They don't have to be horrible. There is plenty to look back on to go, oh wow, that's when it was great, and we didn't have to cater to a diminishing audience. Now how do you get the kids? That's its own question, but you got to meet the audience. You got to meet the audience where they are, and work that balance of giving them what they want, but also showing them, hey, you might want this too. I mean,
Yeah.
and frankly, just like with music, I get new music these days when my band plays shows with other bands, or I go to a show and meet new bands. And kind of same with comics. I get new comics when we do a show, or we go to a con and I meet new artists and they've got their books. That is primarily where I get my new comics.
Yeah. No, me too. Me too. I mean, that's why I spent so much at Heroes, because I probably haven't been there in, it might have been 2 years since I've been in that store. It's been a long time. I rarely get a chance to go to comic stores. But let's keep that kind of creative thread that we had going.
Yeah. Because now to the small creators.
Yeah.
Prior to people like us.
Well, so I don't know if this is so much a pet. I guess it's a pet peeve of mine. But when I go on YouTube, and inevitably my algorithm is comics, skateboarding, a little bit of music, and then like lo-fi hip hop, because I listen to that when I'm writing. That's pretty much my algorithm.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of comics how-to stuff, and don't get me wrong, sometimes I watch it and I've done how-to videos. We talk about it. Our channel is Comics in the Making. So I get it. And I get wanting to get clicks and stuff like that. But my pet peeve is when I see titles of videos that are every professional comic book artist does a comic this way. Two things that a professional comic artist does every single day.
Yeah.
And I see these videos and stuff like that, and I get it. Sometimes you click on them and it's still got some useful stuff. I'm not saying this isn't useful, but on occasion, some of these people will say, every professional does this and you have to do this. And also, spoiler, a lot of times they're not actually like professional comic book artists.
Yeah.
Not that I think that's even needs to be a prerequisite for this. I'm just saying. But if you've been creating comics long enough, like me and Levi have, and I'm getting into 30 years of creating comics. You find out that every cartoonist does it different. There might be similarities here and there, but it's almost always different. Some people will use a script to write. Some people will write as they go. Some people will do it more as like a prose story first and then translate it into comics. There's so many different ways, and guess what? None of them are wrong. None of them are wrong. And I think what misses the boat so often with some of these is a lot of times they focus on the art of the comic. And comics, they're a visual medium. And what attracts me to a comic first is the art. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
But you still got to have a story there. You got to focus on that story. And I think what's missing is if all you're doing is focusing on the art with some of these videos that are, here's how Jim Lee crosshatches, here's blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Every day, if that's all you're doing, that means you're probably not focusing on your writing and your storytelling so much.
Mm-hmm.
The secret is that if you're making comics consistently, you will get better at the art.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we were talking about. Like, and everyone wants to see the art. Everyone who wants to be a comic book creator, everyone who wants to improve their craft. You and I, even will think about the art, but it reminds me of when you were in school and they took that field trip down to SCAD. And what did you say were your expectations, and what was it really? And then how did you feel? Refresh us.
Yeah.
It's exactly that thing. Refresh us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, no, we went to SCAD and we took the penciling class, and it was like, oh, we're going to learn how to draw because that's what a penciler does. And Ty Templeton spent the entire class teaching us how to lay out a page.
Yeah.
We're like, what the fuck does this have to do with penciling? Well, it's got everything to do with penciling. Everything to do with penciling.
That's the most important thing. Learning how to take. I mean, and we have to also, I think, acknowledge that not all comic creators are the same. There are people out there, obviously, who they are a penciler, they are an inker, they are a colorist. When Ryan and I talk about being a comic creator, we're talking about, for the most part, we're referring to people like ourselves, creator-owned, armies of one that have their own story that they conceive and render visually. So if you out there are the penciler, are the inker, and that is your place in comics, and that's what you love doing, some of this, may or may not necessarily apply. Certainly laying out pages applies if you're a penciler. But Ryan and
you still have to be a storyteller.
We talk about it from the aspect of people who are creating their own comics. So bear that in mind as we talk about how we feel with some of these concepts.
Well, we've only got 5 minutes, so it's going to be quick.
I mean, not just in this episode, but
oh, right,
making comics,
but look,
that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah. So going back to our our talk about Marvel and DC and the creatives, and it's not there, at least in my opinion. That's why it's not hitting. That's why these other things are hitting. They have a little more creative control. They have total creative control. When it comes to these YouTube videos saying every professional artist does it this way, look, if you're new, if you've never drawn a comic before, okay, go watch some of those videos. Maybe use them as a starting point for beginning your journey. Okay. But that doesn't have to be the only way. Push what you want to do. It might not work. It might not work. But you're not going to find out unless you do it.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say, it's got
right.
to do about finding that magic spell that's going to get you there, then to go through the process and discarding, trying and failing and discarding the thing that didn't work. That's going to get you there faster than searching for the magic,
Yeah.
The magic thing that's going to get there. It's something we call, failing faster.
Right.
You fail faster, so you get those behind you and you accumulate those lessons learned. The longer it takes for you to fail, for whatever reason you're holding back, you're afraid to try or whatever, you're not going to get those lessons until further down the road. And the only way you're going to quote unquote fail faster is by doing it as much as you have the energy for.
Yeah. I highly recommend, this year I've been prolific. It's strange to me when I go back and I look at the stuff I did just a year ago and go and see the inconsistencies in what I did just 12 months ago, just 6 months ago, compared to where I'm at now, because I've been doing, for the most part, nonstop comics this year.
Yeah.
That's not a brag. That's me saying anybody can do this. You can do this. And that's how you're going to improve. Okay. Yep. You know what? My ending statement will be, for all those videos that you see saying every pro artist does this, blah, 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 blah. No, find what only you do and do that. And you're only going to find that by doing it. Right. And you've got to get started. Right. But don't get hung up on all of these rules for comics. You've got to find that to a point on your own. Listen to the rules. They're there for a reason, but then see how you can break them. See what you can do. And honestly, that's how we fight AI, because AI only works by rules.
Yeah, that's
they can't make up rules.
That is, exactly. And if you're starting out, you're wanting to start out, and you're looking for a starting off point, you're trying to find a video. Don't take it from someone to speak for other people, especially if jerk face YouTube creators trying to tell you what this person in this profession does. I'd like to see a video. I would look for a video where someone says, "Hey, I was at a convention. I talked to 5 professional artists, and asked how they do this thing. And these are the 5 different answers I got."
Right. Yeah. We've got less than a minute. We can
keep going.
But just go do the damn thing. Just do it.
Yep. Later.